Do you remember that a long time ago a novel was released called Bram Stoker's Dracula? Then, in 1922, a movie inspired by this novel was made called Nosferatu. Today I will explain its remake, which is also named Nosferatu. This movie is quite similar to the novel, making it a huge hit. It has several dark and eerie scenes, and the movie portrays four main themes. You'll learn a lot about why this movie is so amazing. Nosferatu, this movie is an American Gothic horror film written and directed by Robert Eggers. The lead character of Nosferatu is played by none other than Bill Skarsgård, who is known for playing Pennywise in It. I hope you'll like it. I have recently explained many interesting films inspired by real stories. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. So, without further ado, let's dive into the video. The movie begins by introducing a girl named Ellen, a troubled and lonely soul since childhood. She feels deep sadness and despair and often cries out for someone to save her, a god, a guardian angel, or anyone who can ease her pain. One day, her desperate plea is answered. A terrifying sound fills the air, and something approaches her. We don't see the face of this entity. It remains hidden, visible only to Ellen. The being speaks to her, saying she has called it out of the darkness, and now it has come to her. It is clear that this is no ordinary being. It is something beyond human, a force from the shadows. In the next scene, Ellen is shown in a trance-like state. The same frightening figure is choking her, and the scene fades into darkness. The story then jumps forward several years to 1838 in the fictional town of Wisborg, Germany. Ellen is now married to Thomas, a real estate agent. Thomas loves her deeply and takes care of her with all his heart, but Ellen is still haunted by strange nightmares and eerie visions. These dreams torment her every day, and Thomas feels helpless watching her suffer. He tries everything to help her, even seeking treatments, but nothing seems to work. On top of that, Thomas is struggling financially and desperately needs money. One morning, Thomas heads to his real estate firm, where his boss, Herr Knock, gives him an important task. Wisborg's largest mansion needs to be sold, and there's a very wealthy man in the Carpathian Mountains who wants to buy it. Thomas must travel to Transylvania to meet the man, finalize the deal, and sign the contract. In return, Thomas will earn a large sum of money, enough to change his and Ellen's life for the better. The man's name is Count Orlok. Excited yet nervous, Thomas returns home to tell Ellen about the trip. Ellen feels a wave of sadness and fear. She doesn't want Thomas to leave her alone. Tearfully, she tells him about a strange dream she once had, where she was married to death itself. In the dream, she felt happy, but the wedding guests had all died. Thomas holds her close and reassures her, brushing off her fears as nothing more than childhood nightmares. The next morning, Thomas says goodbye to Ellen and leaves her in the care of their wealthy friend Friedrich, his wife Anna, and their two daughters. Ellen finds some comfort in their company, especially since Anna is her closest friend. Before leaving, Ellen gives Thomas a locket with a strand of her hair, a token of her love and protection. After a long and tiring journey, Thomas arrives near Count Orlok's castle. He stops in a nearby village for the night, planning to rest before continuing his trip. The villagers act strangely, and when Thomas mentions Orlok's name, they freeze in fear. They beg him not to go to the castle, warning him that it's a place of evil and destruction. Despite their pleas, Thomas decides to stay at the local inn. The caretaker there repeats the warnings, calling the castle a living nightmare that will bring ruin. Troubled by these ominous warnings, Thomas starts to wonder why his boss, Herr Knock, never told him anything about the dangers of this trip. He feels uneasy, but convinces himself to push forward, determined to complete the job and secure a better future for Ellen. At night, Thomas hears strange noises that send chills down his spine. He wakes up and peers out into the darkness, only to see a haunting procession. Gypsies are carrying a naked woman on horseback, their faces grim and silent as they make their way to a graveyard. Thomas watches in horror as they dig up what they call a vampire's grave. When they stab the corpse, it writhes in agony as though it were alive. Terrified, Thomas shuts his eyes, hoping it's just a nightmare. But deep down, he knows it's real. The next day, Thomas continues his journey, but the sight of the deserted town unsettles him. The silence is eerie, and he feels like unseen eyes are watching him. Meanwhile, Knock, with a crazed look in his eyes, performs a bizarre ritual. Naked and frenzied, he worships Count Orlok, as though bound to him by some dark, unholy pact. When Thomas boards a mysterious carriage to Orlok's castle, he feels an overwhelming sense of dread. The driver's face is hidden, and the ride feels like it's taking him deeper into a nightmare. At the castle, Count Orlok greets him. His face is obscured, but his presence is chilling. They sign the deal quickly, but something about the contract feels off, as if it carries a hidden curse. Orlok's voice sends shivers down Thomas's spine. It's the same eerie tone he heard in his dreams, answering Ellen's desperate prayers. Thomas, already shaken, asks Orlok about the strange customs of the town. Orlok scolds him, brushing it off as mere superstition, but his harsh tone only deepens Thomas's fear. At dinner, Thomas accidentally cuts his finger, and Orlok's reaction is unsettling. The Count approaches him, his eyes gleaming with hunger, making Thomas feel like prey. The next morning, Thomas wakes up with a sharp pain in his chest. He discovers a bite mark and tries to convince himself it's just a mosquito bite, but the truth gnaws at him. His blood has been sucked, and the realization leaves him trembling with fear. Desperate and scared, Thomas searches for a way out of the castle but finds no escape. While wandering, he stumbles into a hidden chamber. There, he sees a throne that seems to belong to Locke, and to his horror, a coffin. Curiosity and terror battle within him as he opens it, revealing Locke asleep inside. Thomas tries to muster the courage to stab him, but Locke wakes up. His eyes burn with an inhuman fury as he attacks Thomas. Locke suddenly stops, drawn to a locket Thomas carries. He mutters strange words that seem to echo far away. Reaching Ellen, under his influence, Ellen begins sleepwalking, her face blank and her movements mechanical. But the question lingers, was she under Locke's spell, or was something darker at play? Locke captures Thomas, and in a terrifying moment, Thomas sees Ellen's image within Locke. The Count begins draining Thomas's blood again, leaving him weak and terrified. When Thomas regains consciousness, he is attacked by Locke's wolves. In a desperate attempt to survive, he leaps out of a window and plunges into a cold, rushing river. Back home, Ellen's condition worsens, leaving Frederick deeply worried. Her eyes are distant, and her body trembles with seizures. Frederick calls a doctor who gives her medicine to calm her, but Ellen's fear for Thomas grows stronger. She tells Frederick and Anna that she hasn't heard from him, her voice trembling with despair. Despite their reassurances, her anxiety spirals out of control. The doctor, overwhelmed by her worsening condition, seeks the help of his mentor, Professor Albin. Ellen's cries for Thomas echo through the house, filled with pain and longing, as if she knows he's in terrible danger. Her anguish spreads to everyone around her, leaving them helpless and heartbroken. In the meantime, Thomas's boss, Ernok, is shown locked away in a mental asylum. His mind has completely broken, and he craves raw flesh with a horrifying intensity. He catches rats and birds, eating them alive, and even attacks humans in his madness. He rants constantly about Count Locke's arrival, his voice filled with both fear and twisted excitement. "Death is coming," he says, "and I will serve them." His words send chills down the spines of those who hear him. Elsewhere, Thomas, who survived his fall into the river, is found by a kind nun on the shore. She takes his weakened body to a nearby church, where he is cared for. The peaceful air of the church gives him some relief, and the nuns perform a ceremony to cleanse his soul. But the head nun looks at him with concern and warns him. "You are under the control of evil," she says. She speaks of Locke, explaining that his soul is trapped by Satan in his corpse. Her words frighten Thomas, but he knows she is right. Although he recovers physically, the nun forbids him from leaving the church, calling it God's house, a place where evil cannot enter. But Thomas's heart is heavy. He knows he cannot stay. Locke is heading for Ellen, and he must save her before it's too late. Locke's true intentions become clear. He wants Ellen, but not through force. He wants her to surrender to him willingly. To achieve this, Locke manipulates events, twisting fate to bring her closer to him. Ellen's past comes back to haunt her. As a lonely young girl, she had unknowingly reached out to Locke with her psychic abilities, seeking comfort. That moment created a bond, one that allowed Locke to enter the human world. Their connection, strange and unnatural, began long before she ever met Thomas. When Locke arrives in the town, chaos follows. He releases plague-ridden rats, and death spreads quickly. People fall sick, and fear grips the streets. Professor Albin realizes this is no ordinary plague. It is the work of a demon, but Frederick refuses to believe it. He tries to convince himself that it's just a normal sickness, though doubt creeps into his mind. Locke, meanwhile, uses his bite on Thomas to haunt him. Thomas feels weaker with every passing moment, as if Locke's presence is draining his strength from afar. The connection between them is unbreakable, and Thomas knows he must act before it's too late. Ellen, caught in the middle of this nightmare, begins to remember her past with Locke. The memories flood back, his voice, his presence, the way he seemed to control her thoughts. She realizes he has been a shadow over her life for far longer than she understood. Now she must fight against his hold, not just for her own freedom, but for the survival of everyone she loves. Locke is not human. He is Nosferatu, a vampire, a Dracula. Thomas has faced demons, fought against Satan, and even defeated magic, but he has never faced anything like this. How can such a powerful entity be stopped? How can he defeat Nosferatu? Thomas has no answers, only fear. Desperate, he confides in Frederick, hoping for help, but Frederick is hesitant to believe the truth. Dracula tasted Anna's blood, Frederick finally admits, his voice trembling. He will return to drink it completely. The realization is horrifying. Whatever happened to Anna was done by Nosferatu, and Locke, Odd Locke, is none other than Dracula himself. The weight of this truth crashes down on Thomas. Ellen, Anna, and the entire town are in danger, and he is running out of time. Albion begins his desperate search for a way to stop Nosferatu, poring over the ancient Codex of Secrets. As he reads, a flicker of hope ignites within him when he discovers the method to defeat the monster, though the full details will be revealed later. Meanwhile, Nosferatu invades Ellen's nightmares, his chilling voice echoing in her mind, demanding she come to him. He warns of dire consequences if she refuses. Ellen, terrified, rejects him time and time again, which only enrages Nosferatu further. In his fury, he kills Anna and her two daughters, leaving Frederick shattered and broken with grief. Amid this turmoil, Thomas and Ellen share a heart-wrenching conversation. Ellen reveals the painful truth. She has known Nosferatu since childhood. He has tormented her for years. As a young girl, she was unaware of her psychic abilities, which led her to unknowingly summon a dark force, mistaking it for God. But it was not God. It was pure darkness, something she has carried with her ever since. In a moment of possession, Ellen lashes out at Thomas, belittling him. But later, in a moment of vulnerability, they become intimate, as Thomas desperately tries to prove his love for her and show that he is better than Nosferatu. But despite his efforts, Ellen's condition only worsens, her soul slipping further away. The next scene is filled with unbearable sorrow. Frederick, overcome with grief after losing his family, tries to communicate with Anna's spirit. His mourning drives him to an unimaginable act. He becomes intimate with her dead body. This tragic act leads to his death by plague, symbolizing the madness grief can bring. Thomas and Albion arrive just in time to burn Frederick's body, hoping to stop the plague from spreading any further. Now, with a heavy heart, Albion and Thomas make a final plan to kill Nosferatu. They head to his castle, determined to destroy his coffin. But when they get there, Nosferatu is nowhere to be found. Instead, they encounter Knock, who is swiftly killed. Thomas begins to sense that something is terribly wrong, realizing that Ellen had intentionally sent them there. The shocking truth is revealed. Ellen must willingly sacrifice herself to Nosferatu to trap him forever. The only way to do this is by using someone Nosferatu already loves, Ellen herself. She agrees to the plan, sending Thomas away with a heavy heart. Ellen dresses beautifully, her heart torn, and calls Nosferatu to her. They spend the night together, and as dawn approaches, the first rays of sunlight will kill Nosferatu. But Nosferatu, ever cunning, seems to anticipate escalate this. In his desperation to possess her, he bites Ellen, leaving her nearly lifeless. When Thomas arrives, he finds Ellen taking her final breaths. His heart breaks as he realizes she is dying. Filled with sorrow, he accepts her fate. By sacrificing herself, Ellen ends Nosferatu's plague and curse, bringing peace to the world. With this, the movie concludes, leaving behind a bittersweet sense of closure. So friends, this was the explanation of the Nosferatu movie. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care and keep watching.